Hello, good evening. Just give everyone a moment to make their way in from the waiting room. Hello, everyone. All right, amazing. I think we can go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to the Tiger Global Case Competition, TGCC 2021 Meet the Judges session for the Southeast Asia region. So this is actually a special region because we had such an amazing turnout of registrants from the Asia region that we broke apart the region and created Southeast Asia as its own competitor region, which is awesome because that means that 10 more students are now regional finalists. And that means that 2 more teams get to go to the global final. So we're really excited about this. And also to introduce you to our amazing panel of judges that will be judging the live regional round, which is this weekend. So congratulations to all of the regional finalists. We know the Renaissance Electronics case was incredibly difficult, and you would have put so much work into it. So we are really looking forward to seeing your presentations this weekend. All right, well, without further ado, so first I'm going to introduce Mari Lau Kai. We are welcoming Mari Lau from Singapore. Good evening, Mari Lau.
Thank you. Good evening, Gary. Thank you very much. Yes,
Thanks
I'm great. So pleased to be here with you today.
Amazing. So we are welcoming Mari, like I said, Mari Lau from Singapore. Now she is the founder and director of The Human Factor and has been an adjunct faculty member at ESSEC Business School, Asia Pacific for the past 11 years. Now, fun fact, Mari Lau gave the most popular workshop last year at Tiger Global Case Competition 2020. So when there was a spot open for a judge, I knew exactly who to call. And we're so pleased that she could be here with us today and for this weekend. As an educator, Mari Lau has facilitated courses and programs for thousands of individuals across all parts of Asia Pacific and Europe. As a coach, she's helped numerous clients find more satisfaction and fulfillment in their professional lives. In addition to leading the Human Factor and teaching at ESSEC, Mari Lau is a board member of Big Bloom, which is an organization that combines leadership development and social innovation. She also actively supports AIDA, a charity that helps foreign domestic workers and low-income women in Singapore. Mari Lau has been living in Asia for 25 years and is certainly an expert across the region. All right, now next, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Vikas Prashad. Welcome, Vikas.
Hello, good evening, good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Now, Vikas is also in Singapore. Vikas is a portfolio manager who has invested in public and private companies around the world for 20 years. For the past decade, he's lived in Asia, first in Hong Kong and now in Singapore, but has continued to invest globally. His key areas of focus are life sciences and technology, and is increasingly spending time on companies at the nexus of both. Aside from his family and the markets, Vikas spends the most of his time mentoring others to give them the head start that he never had. Vikas is a graduate of the University of Virginia, where he was an Eccles Scholar, and Harvard University. Now, I'm going to throw another fun fact at you. So Vikas was a judge for the TGCC 2020 regional and global round, and is a judge now for the Southeast Asia round and the global round. So you'll see that M&G Investments is a global partner of TGCC 2021. And we are incredibly fortunate to have Vikas with us and so involved. Thanks so much, Vikas, for being with us.
My pleasure.
All right, beautiful. Last but certainly not least, Aisha Faridi. Aisha, welcome. Aisha's joining us today from Mumbai. Welcome, Aisha.
Hi, Kerry. So good to be here.
Thank you so much. So Aisha just jumped off the camera for her news show. So Aisha has more than a decade of experience in business news television. She is one of the most seasoned stock market anchors in India. As the senior editor of ET Now, Aisha anchors flagship shows, The Market and First Trades, and the afternoon show Closing Trades. Her expertise in analyzing macro and micro trends, company fundamentals, investigative and sector-based reports make her the viewer's trusted guide. At ET Now, besides liaising with traders, bankers, and economists for inputs, Aisha also heads the digital operations, where she oversees content on social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and co-creates original digital content. Before joining ET Now, Aisha was an anchor and researcher at CNBC TV 18 India. She's also done brief stints at MTV India and BBC World Service. Wow. Aisha, we're so incredibly fortunate to have you with us today. And I must say I'm a little intimidated interviewing you today, but look, I guess the roles are reversed. So we're all
It's a
right,
first
right?
for me as well. I always interview. I've never interviewed.
Beautiful. Well, lots of firsts happening here at TGCC. So amazing. Now, for all of the finalists on the line that will be presenting their solutions this weekend, this is going to be an inside look for you guys at the judges who are going to be assessing your presentations, asking you the questions in the Q&A. So listen up. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is we're going to introduce the judges with a set of questions. And then if you have questions for the judges, you can drop them in the Q&A question and answer box. Now, if somebody has the same question that you have, go ahead and upvote that question instead of asking it again. And that way we'll see it at the top of the list and we'll be able to answer it during the live Q&A at the end. Sound like a plan? All right, let's get started. Beautiful. Okay, my first question is for Marilau. Now, what would you say that you like most about your career?
Okay, about my career or my current job?
Your current job.
Current job. Okay, current job. There's many things I like about my current jobs. I would say jobs because I kind of have different hats. And sometimes people ask me, oh, you do a lot of things, but for me, they share a couple of common elements. And I think the main thing is a sense of purpose. So this purpose is really essential for me. I design, I facilitate workshops, courses, I coach people, I run social hackathons. All of this have an impact. And I think it's a concrete impact on people's life. So for me, that's probably the most important thing. I would say a second thing on the human level is meeting a lot of people, connecting with a lot of people from, around the world. I do workshops from New Zealand, from, all across Asia, sometimes until Mexico. So this is kind of, sometimes I feel, I pinch myself like, wow, this is quite amazing to be able to do that. And also the lifestyle, I would say, because I can run my own schedule in theory. So I would say that's another aspect. So purpose, human connection, and lifestyle.
Absolutely. And that's why you are involved in so many different initiatives that even saying job, I'm like, where's job? Like, there's so many things that you're involved in. Yeah. Yes, that's amazing. And if you follow your passion and you have those values that guide you and you're excited, then it makes the work really exciting as well.
Strong drivers.
Exactly. Brilliant. Thank you so much. All right. Now, because I'm going to turn the same question to you. What do you like best about your job?
First, I'm wishing that you would have called me first because I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and then Marilau said the same thing I was going to say, which is purpose. And so we can talk about that later. But what I would say is so the money that we manage is not mine. It's not my partners and my colleagues. It's external capital. It's somebody else's money. So to be able to manage somebody else's money is a privilege, and so that gives my work purpose. This is not a frivolous task. They sleep well at night. They have more wealth tomorrow or a month from now or a few years from now because of the efforts that we put in as a team. So that purpose gives me a tremendous amount of motivation and gratification. The other thing I would say is that because of the varied geographies I look at, because of the varied companies I look at, I get to leverage everything that I've ever learned going back to grade school, from basic arithmetic to negotiation to science, every language I've ever studied, people skills, negotiating skills, knowing when to keep going, and always also knowing when to quit. So I get to use everything I've ever learned. Nothing is ever wasted. That also gives me a lot of gratification. Meanwhile, while I have this reservoir of knowledge, I'm not depleting it. I'm adding to it every day. I learn something every day, every single day. Not long before this session started, I was on a call with a company in Japan that is using quantum computing to fuel drug discovery. And then just before that, it was something else. And just before that, it was something else. So a purpose and work that allows me to leverage what I've learned while continuing to learn. So that's what I really like.
Amazing. And I love that you all come from such different sectors as well. Right? But even though you have much different careers, you and Mary Lau, I guess the essence of it at the core was very similar.
I think if I can add something, I think what is a direct offshoot of that is that our careers should not ever have an expiration date as a result of the varied interests that we have and the varied skills that we have. So all three judges, I think, the choice will be ours when we decide to stop working. I think we will be relevant for a long time. I hope at least to lead by example and to be relevant for a long time.
I completely agree.
Absolutely. Well, I have no doubt that you all will be. Aisha, we're gonna toss the question to you. What's your favorite part about your career?
Oh my God. The favorite part about my career, there's never a dull moment. It's just so exciting. It's buzzing. Every minute is different than every second. What Vikas said about the learning curve and learning never stops. I don't think you can ever learn more than being in a business news channel. And the interesting thing about business news, stock markets, economy, just everything runs on economics, right? So anything from be it the COVID pandemic to how, the grassroots in India or across the globe is moving, and especially a country like India or, businesses in India, stock markets in India, they're so globally intertwined. The fact that you got to keep your ears close to the ground on just about everything that's happening across the world, that's what, keeps me on my toes. And that's what I love about my job. That it just keeps you going and going. There's never a dull moment. You can never rest. You always are live wired.
You hear that, competitors? So this is what she's used to, all right? And Aisha's interviewing, top business people in the hottest industries, in the up to the minute news. And
Vikas as well, very often. I have interviewed Vikas.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's great. I'm really excited to see some of the questions that come from this judging panel. They're going to be great. All right, let's see. Now that we all know what you all love about your jobs or your careers, what would be one piece of advice that you would give someone that's starting out in their career, maybe is just finishing high school, has just graduated university, kind of at that intersection? Mary Lau, what would some advice be that you'd give someone in that situation?
Yeah, I've thought about it, and I would say, there's lots of things that you could, recommend, but I would say be patient and focus. Why? Because we often, want to rush to the next project, be promoted to the next job, get a move in your career. That's all great. And at the same time, I think it's important to, focus on what you're doing, take the time to learn as much as possible where you are, select one or two skills that you want to hone, and just make sure that you consolidate them before you go to the next phase, right? And just be present in the moment, meet as many people, really do the most of where you are in life. without trying to go to the next thing, because this is life, this is now. And so focus, learn as much as possible, and just, just try to, make the most of it, of the situation at the beginning of your career, and enjoy, just enjoy.
I think we can all remember when we were at the very beginning of our career and all you want to do is get to the next stage, and people would tell you this and you're like,
and
sure, okay. It's probably happening as well, but I mean, there's a reason that this is the advice for, of the ages, because it is so valuable and you can never go back to that time that you have right now. Yes, no, that's great advice. Thank you. And Aisha, what were some of what made you choose the career path that you chose? Were there some, forks in the road? Were there some major decisions that led you to where you're at today?
I guess, just adding to what Mari said, you got to live in the moment, you got to explore all. And I think for me, my career choice purely came from the fact that I was a news hound. Yes, what added to the role was the fact that my parents were also journalists. So just focusing on news, reading the newspapers, watching the TV channels was I would say was perhaps my earliest childhood memory, watching the Gulf War on news, or, just everything around. So having that interest in news was something that really led me to believe that this is something that I want to explore more. The fact that I would see those news anchors on TV, and sometimes I wouldn't even understand what they're talking about, but to be able to question that, what's happening around me, why is it happening around me, just the curiosity bug in me, I think led me to news. I always wanted to do this, as a young teenager, when someone would ask me, what do you want to do in your life? And I was like, I want to get into news. I want to be a news anchor and I want to be a news reader. Sometimes when you discover your passion so early in life, as fortunately was the case with me, I guess the universe conspires and somehow it makes it land in your lap. So I think I was that destiny's child and I just got lucky. But yeah, you got to identify your passion and run with it, and rest, everything will fall in place.
On you. Well, I heard it sounds like, as you knew as a teenager that you wanted to be a news anchor. This was all that you talked about, right? I've always heard, if you really want something, talk about it to everybody. And then somebody is going to be able to connect you at some point, because they're going to be like, oh, that girl that's always talking about being a news anchor, right? Or, and then they'll think of you, and then there you go. So I really believe, of talking about things like that to everybody that you can, because it's the best form of networking. Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. All right, let's see. And now if we talk about, I think we've already touched a bit on values in our first question, but if we talk about values as a set, Marie, Marie-Lau, what values are you committed to and why?
Well, if we follow up on what I said earlier, I think impact is a strong one for me, impact on people's life. And I think, again, that's one of the common themes that runs through all my different jobs or activities or roles. Service, service to my clients, service to my students. So this idea that what I do is much bigger than myself, and I serve others. So like when I'm in front of a group, right, what comes to mind often is like, what do they need? What do they need now to grow, to understand, to learn? So it's not about me, it's about others. And that is something that keeps me grounded, and also that gives some sort of direction as well to my work. Community as well. I'm part through my work of different communities, and for me, that's really important. My team here is small, but through different associations, I reach out to a lot of people. And so that's also essential. And family, yes, I work, I'm also a wife, I'm a mother, and to honor all those different roles. Sometimes it's not easy, of course, and it's at times easier, but it's definitely very fulfilling. So to remember that, to keep some time for my different roles in life. So yeah, impact, service, community, family.
Amazing. Yeah, it's important with those roles in life, right? With the situation that we're in globally, they all kind of blend together and become
Yes,
a big mushy pot of all the
true.
things that we are.
I was just remembering, I hope I've locked the door, because otherwise it's almost 7, so my son is probably going to run into
There you
it.
go.
Okay.
A child, a cat, things happen. Like this is real life that we're having here. Well, that's a really, really good segue to ask you, Vikas, what do you think is the most important skill or lesson that you hope that students learn during TGCC? And you don't have to necessarily limit it to one, but I think it's such a suitable question with your experience at TGCC.
I would like to think that one takeaway will be to do difficult things. This Renaissance case, I think most people would say, is that it was not easy, it was not straightforward, it was demanding, and it requires a bit of faith on our part to put it in front of high schoolers, to believe in them and not to underestimate them. And I think the takeaway for the students is that they should not underestimate themselves. The world is very good about weeding people out and counting people out, so don't do that to yourself. Have confidence in yourself. I think these days, what I notice a change in younger people is that sometimes there's a little bit of a hesitance to project confidence, to be to have faith in themselves. I think it's a little bit of cockiness is good. I may not always show it, but on the inside, I'm pretty confident. Otherwise, I wouldn't do what I do every day, going to battle in the markets with other investors. So I think have confidence in yourself, do difficult things. But also on the other side of that, a lot of the advice that we hear from people these days is never give up, stick with things to the end. I don't really think that's great advice. I think you should consider your opportunity cost, consider your time cost. Time is what everybody wants most, but it's what most people use the worst. So take that into consideration. Sometimes it's smartest to move on. Quitting and failure, these are words that we are coached to stay away from. But I embrace my failure. I've learned a lot more from all my failures than I have from my victories. And so I embrace them. Errors are the portals of discovery. Dive into them, figure them out, do difficult things, and keep going. So that I think that this case study is a microcosm of that, whether it's a difficult team dynamic, it's a difficult aspect of the case, it's a difficult question from a judge. I think there's a lot of extrapolation that can be done and applied to real life.
Absolutely. Those are such great points. And, they don't know who the global case study is going to be, but it's not going to get easier. And we know that you're all up for the challenge. So, yeah, it's really, really exciting. All right. Now, if students want to, because you have so much great insight for the competitors and so much experience, if there were some book recommendations that you have, or like what are your favorite books, or what do you think high school students should read if they're looking for kind of their next best read?
So I was kind of hoping I'd get this question. So I was walking around our home library and I started pulling books, and I ended up with a dozen. So some of them are in the back there, but I picked 4 to share. And I think the most important thing about these is that it's not a biography, it's not particular facts, it's learning how to think and learning how to react in circumstances. So maybe we can share this list on the website later, but the first is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. A couple thousand years old. If it's been around for that long, there must be some value in it. The essays of Michel de Montaigne, France. So it's about 500 years old. The key thing about each of these books is I've read them many times, more than twice, more than thrice, many times, and I go back to them very often. The third one is called The Art of Doing Science and Engineering, Learning to Learn. Not a little bit younger, not as old as the other ones. And then the last one is Principles by Ray Dalio. So I think the common thread that goes through the tapestry of these books is learning how to learn, learning how to think, learning how to react, keeping your head when there's turbulence around you. I think at this age, more important than any particular skill, more important than any particular fact or set of facts, is how do you react to circumstances? How do you preserve optionality in your life? How do you deal with adversity? It's never too early to start building those skills. So those are the ones I would start with. If I get this question again someday, I'll share the rest of the ones in the background. or maybe some others. But those are four I really wanted to highlight. And I've read parts of these to my son, and he's read some of these as well. And we talk about them all the time.
Well, those are so great. I was like taking notes over here too. So thanks for the book recommendations. I see Aisha seems to have thought that she was going to be asked the question as well, or maybe it's just a coincidence of our Zoom background.
No, I was just wondering because Vikas has talked about so fondly about these books many times in the past. And I mean, Ray Dalio is one person who we've interviewed on the TV channel. So, I mean, I completely agree with that recommendation.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Brilliant. Well, those are all the questions that I have prepared for you guys today. But we have some questions from the audience. If you wouldn't mind, we'll take a few live questions just to round out the session. We're not going to tell you the answers to the case. Everyone asking questions. I'm just going to tell you that. Let me have a look here. All right. Let's see. So the most upvoted is... well, the question is, what similar attributes do you see in a regional finalist entry and what makes them stand out? So I think the question is more like what makes a regional, what makes a presentation stand out? What makes a case solution stand out? And I would say maybe we're talking about the deciphering live in the presentation. I don't know if that's going to be an easy one to answer live.
Well, while others are thinking about the answer, I can say thoughtfulness. PowerPoint can be effective. It has its limitations. I'm more a fan of prose and just text on a page. So rather than flashy graphics, I think thoughtfulness and evidence of more thinking, less doing. I think that's great. These kids are still young. I'm old enough now. I can say the kids, but they're still young. They will have many chances to present. So if somebody is a little bit nervous, if they pause a little bit, if they say too many times, if they laugh nervously, I don't hold that against them at all. But what I would give a lot of weight towards is evidence of thoughtfulness and creativity, rather than look at these cool graphics that I pulled together. So I think that's what I would share. The solution, if the solution is yours and you have put your own thought into it, it will come through, and that's what we want to see.
And I completely agree with Vikas, and I would add also a story that makes sense, right? It might not be the best solution in the end, but yet if the story makes sense, if it has strong arguments, and if it's coherent, right? So check for coherence in your story. And that would also be very helpful for us to understand, what you propose. So storytelling, coherence, structure, I would say as well.
Yeah, I'd just like to add something here, Carrie. Keep it simple, guys. Those flashy graphics, we've seen them all. So that's not going to impress that, but keep it simple and, keep it cohesive, short, to the point. That's what I guess would make the job easier for all of us.
Exactly.
That's right. I mean, you've only got 10 minutes, so they have to be pretty succinct. 10 minutes, 10 slides. So pretty succinct, that's for sure. I'm sure all the finalists are rehearsing their presentations.
Yeah, I was about to say, make sure you rehearse, right? That you stick to 10 minutes, because the last thing you want is to, be halfway through and then you run out of time. And so that would be very disappointing. So rehearse.
I must say, in all of the presentations last year, I didn't see a single one that had no idea of time and just went over. Okay, so everyone was very, very well rehearsed. If anyone's on the line that is considering not rehearsing, definitely do that. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Brilliant. So what do you all think about humor? Do you prefer to laugh during the presentation? Is that, do you want it more lighthearted in your preference? And I will preface this with saying that all judges are different, right? Which is the beauty of it, because you're going to get a real 360-degree perspective of your pitch and your presentation for all of the finalists. So, but yeah, how do you feel personally about laughing in a presentation? Do you think it should be really serious?
I would say no. If you want to make us laugh, go ahead. If it's part of your story and that makes sense, yes.
Who doesn't like a good laugh?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I especially appreciate laughter because I don't think I'm very funny. So I appreciate when people can leverage humor. So I don't know how to do that.
Which is funny because we
You
all
had all
laugh.
of us cracking at that, Vikas, though. So I think you may want to take that back. You are funny.
I know. I know, right? Okay, what about maybe because this is for you, what about if high school students are seeking a career in business or finance? Like, so they said any advice. So maybe extracurriculars, classes to take. I mean, joining TGCC is a great first step or an additional step. Any?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question. So these days, the friction that you encounter in starting a company or launching an app is very low. But that doesn't mean that you should be doing that. My advice is join an organization, join a company that has already started up, and add value to that as a start. Unless you have some fantastic idea or you've just lucked into some funding. I think make yourself important to somebody important. And then great things happen along the way. Because what I see quite often is children in middle school or high school, they want to have something on their resume that says, I started X startup. Well, how much was your revenues? Was 0. I had this app, how many downloads did you have? 25, and because I'm Indian, 24 of those are my relatives. So I think it's more important to join something that has already started up and add value to that. To get an internship. These days, there's so many entrepreneurs around. Befriend somebody, spend a week with them over the summer. Maybe that next year turns into a month-long internship, and start to build that way. I think you learn a lot more at that age from joining something that has already been a startup rather than starting your own.
We talk about it a lot of times as initiative and impact, the 2 I's. So you want to really have both. So if you have all the initiative, but then you can't really, you don't have much to show for it, then you didn't necessarily have the impact. And like you're saying, potentially you'd have, the opportunity to take initiative in something that's already started, but also have more impact and learn along the way.
Yeah,
definitely.
But that's just my view. Other people will have other views, but that's mine from my experience.
That's the beauty of it, is that everyone has different advice because they've had different life experiences. And, one thing that's a reoccurring theme at TGCC is that there's so many more ways to get where you're going than just the one that you think that there is. And, you may think that you want to do something, but when you grow up, then you figure out that you want to do something else. And I'm still waiting to grow up to figure out what I'm going to be. But, you gotta have a plan, just don't have on blinders. But very cool. Well, I think that's all the time that we have today. We have some other questions about what makes a good presentation, but those are some pretty open-ended questions. And I think we've already asked that one. So I think that's probably all of the live Q&A. We'll definitely send through all of the book titles to all of the competitors. So the competitor email went out earlier this week already. We'll send that in the competitor email next week. And we'll also put it in the recording notes of this recording for the Meet the Judges for Southeast Asia. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. Marilau, Aisha, and Vikas, such a pleasure. Thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy day to introduce yourselves to the competitors. And we're so excited about the regional competition around this weekend.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for inviting me.
No worries. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank
See you
you.
on Sunday.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.